Angela. Welcome to our show. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Alan Power. He is one of the heroes in dementia care, and he has an innovative solution approach to dementia. So, welcome to our show, and so pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much, Angela. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah. So tell me, what's your position?
My position is called the Schlegel Chair in Aging and Dementia Innovation at the Schlegel UW Research Institute for Aging in Waterloo.
Wow. So what inspired you to your research?
I am actually a practitioner. I started out as a GP for several years and then got lured into long-term care, working as a geriatrician for many years. Two things led me to what I'm doing today. One of them is not being happy with the way we care for people living with a diagnosis of dementia, particularly not understanding people's needs and using too many sedating medications like antipsychotics, and also being involved with what's loosely called the long-term care culture change movement, which is a movement to change long-term care homes from sterile institutions into more livable, meaningful, engaging places to live and work. And between the two of them, I decided I needed to come up with a better way to care for people that didn't rely on these dangerous medications. And that led to me writing a book, which led to me changing from a practice career to a speaking career, and eventually coming up here. I live in Rochester, New York, but coming up to Waterloo part-time to work with the researchers here at the RIA.
Yes, I agree with you. When I work in long-term care facility, I often see my residents over-medicated. So I'm glad you have a different solution. And your book became very popular, right?
I wrote two books. The first one was called Dementia Beyond Drugs, and that was the first one to challenge the use of antipsychotics and to give some basics of a different approach. And that came out about a year before the media was really talking about long-term care and overuse of these drugs. So it got some nice reviews. It didn't fly off the bookshelves, but when the media started talking, and particularly in the U.S. when the government gave long-term care homes the charge to reduce their antipsychotics, and people didn't know how to do that, then I started getting calls and started speaking and doing a lot more traveling.
Great. We are so lucky to have you.
It's great to be here. The RIA is a great place to work, and it's a great opportunity to collaborate with some world-class researchers.
Yeah, so how do you collaborate with them?
Well, a lot of it is just think tank type work. I mean, I'm not trained as a researcher, so whenever I do research, I usually have people that are more trained than that working with me as investigators. But we spend a lot of time collaborating. We do a lot of collaborative research. We bounce things off each other. We often will do partnerships with that. And we do a lot of co-design of research projects, not only with each other, but with community members, with people living with dementia or people living in long-term care. And as a result, it's just a real hotbed of ideas and innovation going on. So it's always stimulating to be here.
Great. So it sounds like an interdisciplinary approach, right?
Very much so, very much so, yeah. And even though I focus on dementia, even the other chairs who are focusing on other areas, they're interacting with dementia. So whether your focus is a nutrition chair or a mobility chair, like you have interviewed in the past, they both are obviously working with people who live with cognitive changes too.
You're also a musician. Tell me about your musician career as well.
Well, I've always been involved in music ever since I was a young child, and I studied instruments through school, and actually when I was an undergraduate as a pre-med, I took half my courses at the Eastman School of Music, a very prestigious music school, mainly in jazz and classical composition and arranging. I never really studied how to play an instrument at that level, but then I went off to medical school, and when I was too busy to do those things, I picked up my guitar and started playing and then writing songs for the guitar and being sort of a singer-songwriter. And now that I have cut down my traveling, I'm back at Eastman again, studying jazz saxophone, writing more jazz music for people, and actually doing some co-writing with a Brazilian singer who lives in Toronto now. So I've been able to expand my co-writing past the borders a little bit.
Wow, it's great. I listened to your music. It was very touching. It was beautiful
Thank you so
pieces.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that because you have different approach, like contribute your approach in medical?
I think it helps. I think it helps. We had a good discussion earlier today about some of the creative people who have like theater backgrounds who have done amazing things with people with dementia. And I think being so involved in the arts does give you a different way of looking at situations, different way of problem solving, different way of just sort of filing things in different orders and saying, what happens if we turn it this way? What else can happen? The nice thing about creativity is that there are no rules. You can look at something 100 different ways, and sometimes one of the problems we get with dementia care is we get stuck looking at it the same way. And so I think really what I offer is not that I've invented anything magical, but that I've just said, how can we see this old disease in a different way than we've been looking at it?
Yeah. Indeed, the medical, we need science and the medical both approach, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of art to medicine. It's not all science.
Yeah, and it's good to have some positive perspective to dementia, this kind of topic, right?
I think that's one part of my message that resonates with people is that there is hope. It is possible to have a meaningful and engaged and fulfilling life, even though you have a diagnosis of dementia. That's not enough of a message that we're giving in society, and I think that's one of the reasons why dementia is so greatly feared, because people feel like when you get the diagnosis, your life is over. And part of the message is, no, it's not. There are many ways that you can live fully, that you can continue to contribute to your family, to society, and we want to engage you to the fullest extent that you want, and that is possible.
So we need to look at positive side of dementia.
Yes, it's not that there isn't a negative side. We know there's a negative side, but a too intense focus on that negative side blinds us to possibilities and sometimes leads us to do things that actually ultimately cause more harm than good.
Yes. So what recent project do you have?
Well, we talked about the fact that I've sort of formulated a different approach to understanding people with dementia, and particularly understanding when they are distressed or when they're saying or doing things that we don't quite understand, so that we don't reach for the pill bottle and give them potentially dangerous pills. And I've talked about this and taught this approach for over a decade now, but not being a primary researcher, I haven't been able to formally study it. I have some colleagues who've had some great success with it in other parts of the United States, but once again, not as publishable research, they're practitioners. And so an opportunity came along, because we do work in partnership with Schlegel Villages, to test my approach at one neighborhood of a long-term care home in Windsor, Ontario, which is part of the Schlegel Villages. And we just started the project in September. It's a year-long project. I was there in August and did training. And things have been exceeding my expectations so far. It's been going extremely well. And we're already talking about what's the next stage after this. And I have to give the people at the Village of Aspen Lake credit, because I expected it would take a lot longer for them to master this. It's a very counterintuitive way of thinking about dementia. And it takes a while to get it into your head and to act that way, and they've just done an amazing job of embedding this in their daily practice. And so my hats are off to them, and I hope that they can help show everybody just what can be done.
Wow, I'm looking forward to reading your new book.
Oh, thanks.